Welcome to Solitary RPG. Today we're going to take a look at Apollo 47, the Technical Handbook by Tim Hutchinson. Tim Hutchinson's the same author that put out Thousand-Year-Old Vampire, and that is another book that I find just fascinating as a book itself. It is well put together, and it's a gorgeous book, and I love having it in my collection. Apollo 47 is another one of these kind of overindulgence in a book. This is just a tome of inspiration for playing the game. So let's talk a little bit about the book itself before I crack it open. This is printed only at Drive-Thru RPG currently. I don't know if in the future there's going to be another company that will be able to offer this in a printed form, but as of right now, it is only available at Drive-Thru RPG. The book itself is not required to play the game. This book is really just inspiration to help you play the game. If you purchase this book, just so you're aware, this book weighs 7 pounds. So this is a thick tome of a book. There's only 1 page of rules. There's 9 pages of advice, 13 pages of prompts, and 1,177 pages of a NASA manual. So this is really just, and all those pages are just prompts to help you play the game. If you purchase the PDF, you do not get the NASA manual. All you get are the 30 pages of rules and advice and the basic information. The manual itself is kept out. The author stated that that was done intentionally because the book is really just a prompt for playing the game and feels that it's something that you need to actually have that's tangible on the table when playing if you're gonna go into having this book. For whatever reason, didn't feel that having the PDF, having all that in the PDF format would keep with the theme of the game. If you're thinking about Apollo 47, we're going back in time where technology wasn't as advanced as it is today with PDFs and all that kind of stuff. Like you would have manuals and spreadsheets and all kinds of information. And that's kind of the sense I took reading why the NASA manual was not included in the PDF. Think Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks and how they worked all the problems out, and that was a lot of reams of paper and binders and things like that to make that stuff happen. So that's kind of the lowdown on the book. One of the things that really attracted me was to purchasing this was when I read the buyer beware section under the Drive-Thru RPG description. They were clear in stating that this book pushes the limits of printing. This is over 1,000 pages, and that's just a really thick book. So there's warnings like, be prepared. There's going to be ripples along the edges from cutting the paper and putting this all together. If you're super rough with the book, pages will probably fall out, which to me would be more fitting for the game itself, having some loose pages and things like that. I think will add some nuance to the game. There was one warning that really caught my attention, and that was warning number 2. Quietly accept cosmetic blemishes and issues. There's just something about that. We love our books. We love to take care of our books, but they were very upfront and clear that this book is really just an overindulgence in adding some prompts to a game, and it's just a crazy concept to even think. You could have just put a couple hundred pages in, and it would have been fine. But to put over 1,000 pages in a book, it's just crazy. And that's one of the things that attracted me to it, is just how ludicrous this is, and it's not necessary. And I don't even know if I'll ever play the game. I read through the PDF; it looks fascinating, but this book really just I just had to have it in my collection. Sometimes we buy books not necessarily to play the games, but just to have in our collections, and this is one of them. I also purchased the cards, and I will talk a little bit about the cards. Again, all the information in the books and the cards and everything, they're just prompts. This is a storytelling game, kind of like Thousand Year Old Vampire, where you're astronauts on the moon. The traveling to the moon has become commonplace, and things go wrong. And that's what this is all about. That's the stories you're telling. You're talking about your adventure or your work on the moon. So with that being said, let me crack this thing open and show you what this book looks like. I have not opened this. It is still sealed. So let me open this up. And it is literally glued to the spine. Sorry about that. All my miniature stuff kind of was in the way there. So it was glued to the spine there for whatever reason, probably because the box had to be made to fit this. Yes, you can see my ring light up above. Sorry about that. Not a lot I can do about that. But yeah, this is the book. So let's see. They talked about the edges. Okay, there's some blemishes, but nothing too terrible. Everything looks cut nice and neat. But yeah, you can see some blemishes. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Let me pick up all this stuff. So I'm sure over time, this looks like it's a glued spine, most likely. So I'm sure over time this is going to fall apart, especially if you're not careful with it. So now we just get into the basics of the rules and the procedures, talking about the game. The paper, it feels a little bit thinner than normal paper. This isn't thick paper. This just feels like I'm just going to say cheap copy paper, which makes sense because you wouldn't want to use a really thick paper to make this. So we're just kind of talking about the rules. And again, if you just purchase the PDF, you'll get all of the rules and all the information. Some of these copies look like copies of copies of copies. They're not very crisp, which would make sense. Who knows where the author was able to source this information. It was probably, some public records, and the public records were just used so much, and they're just copies of copies. But, they're a little blurry at that front. It could also just be I'm an old man and my eyesight is terrible. So let me put my glasses on. Here's like a little sample of gameplay. Yeah, I'm not doing a rules review or anything like that. If you're not familiar with the game, you can check it out online and get some information about it. It's just a storytelling game. You're not even really rolling dice. There's no dice rolling in this game. It's just one player takes the spotlight and starts talking, and all the other players basically are mission control, asking them questions and throwing out more procedural stuff at them. And this book is all about lingo and using jargon. And how many of us know space jargon? Not many of us. So this is just prompts, talking about procedures. And again, this is just helpful to help you get going and start playing the game. I'm really just trying to thumb through and now get into the manual itself. So this is stuff now that wasn't part of the PDF. All this was. And here we go. We're just kind of Just gonna kind of flip through this real quickly. I'm not gonna flip through all 1,177 pages of it, but here we're just getting information. I'm just gonna start doing some heavier flip throughs, power and data functions. And you could probably, are the pages, I don't think the pages are numbered in any way, shape, or form. I was gonna say you could probably just roll some dice and pick a random page for when you're playing the game. Um, this is just insane information. Kind of just giving you some functions and how things work. And so I'm not a rocket science. I don't know any of this stuff, but we're starting to get into power supplies and stuff of that nature. And oh, I saw something. Oh, here we go. LSP equipment. So that's neat. I don't know what an LSP is, but I'm sure I can figure it out. So just neat. And it's all kind of landscaped in here, which would make sense because this is just kind of a tone like that. So if you're doing the play, now we're going back the other way. So now we got actual visual aids of the, like some sort of a component. Let's see if we can, this looks like the pod, the landing pod. Again, neat stuff. Not necessary to play the game in any way, shape, or form. Really just interesting historical documents. I guess if you just are into the Apollo's missions, this is just some neat historical documents, because here we have signatures of James L. Gibson and Charles C. Lutz, who's the chief, and Richard S. Johnston. Just some different names here of people that signed for things. Just neat. This is just really neat stuff. You could see where it was 3-hole punched. And I'm sure this was a thick binder at some point, in a thick binder. Here we got the spacesuit. Here's your ring. Again, and you would use these as prompts during the game, just to give you some terminology, some jargon, so that you can tell your little story when the spotlight's on you. And also the other players can look at it and ask you to do things or give you advice or just kind of throw some challenges at you. And that's all this is. That's all this stuff is. Oh, we got actual photos in here. This is neat. And I'm about halfway through, and I'm just kind of thumbing through. I'm not doing a page by page. I don't know if I'll ever physically look at this book page by page. But I do have a friend who's big into the Apollo missions, and I will most likely be sharing this book with him to let him take a look at it, because he may find it fascinating. He may even want to play the game, which I think could be really neat. But to have these photos, these old black and white photos, is just neat. Really neat stuff to see these black and white photos. Oh, look at that. And then it just goes on. I don't know what's going on here. Neat. So yeah, it just kind of goes on. Boy, National Air and Space Museum. Some sort of an appendix, a reference, acknowledgement. So maybe this is part of a book of some sort. I don't know. I will have to really dig into it to find out. Oh, now we got the vehicle. So if you're, tooling around on the moon, taking a look around, here's some vehicle information, so you can talk about how the vehicle, maybe the drive motor went out, or the harmonic drive went out. You can just have some terminology and have a little bit more immersion in the game. Instead of making crazy stuff up that you have no idea, you can actually just flip through pages and come up with some challenges and some solutions to your problems that you're having while on the moon. So just neat. I don't know. How much more we got here? There's tons and tons of stuff. This is just crazy. Um, but sometimes there's things you just see and you just want them for whatever reason, and you buy them. And this for me was one of those. I just thought this was just fascinating. Now, for solo gaming, I don't know if this would be that much fun for solo gaming. Could be a great tool for working on creating stories, some impromptu speaking types exercises you could use to help you craft some more storytelling. But this might be one of those that, I might actually want to play in a group, go play with other people. That's always interesting. That's the rover again. Again, just fascinating. This is just it's just a bunch of historical documents to be used as prompts while playing the game. Bunch of checklist stuff. Towards the end, it's just a bunch of maybe like an index or something. I don't know. I'll have to really spend some time to figure out what everything is. But yeah, this is just insane. There we go. Information contract, mission support, equipment office. Okay. But the book overall, like, it's not. I think Drive Through RPG did a fabulous job printing it. It's a little bulgy in the center, but that's okay. It's just insane. It's super super heavy, so that's probably why it's not going to be a book I hold in my hands very much. It's going to be something you just lay down on the table. You're going to flip through some pages, take some time to craft your story, and then tell your story. Now, also, if you don't want the book, if the book is something that's like, I don't want to cut down a small forest to print a book, they did come up. They do have cards. And let me get this off my desk because that ring light is just a little too much. And the cards are broken down into two different sets. You have these visual cards, which are just meant to give you some sort of a scenic view of the place you were at. So in case you wanted to describe what you see in front of you. So these are just visual prompts to help you. And then you have word prompt cards that you can use and just to help you tell your story. These are no different if you're into solo playing where you roll up and you just get two words to help you tell your story. You're just getting these cards and they just have a bunch of different words on them to help you tell your story. I will say, let me zoom in. The white text on top of the gray for me is a little hard to see. I'm a little bit older. My eyesight's not as good as I used to be, but that is a little bit hard to see. But you still have a lot of words on here to work with, so it would have been nice if maybe there was a way of splitting the printing up or something, but I'm sure that would have been a problem because of the landscape of the background. It is what it is. I'm not too terribly, it's not upsetting in any way. And if I just look at it closely, I can read all the words. But the white is just a little bit. It blends a little bit into the background of this white artwork. But these are the cards, and on the front sides, they have some visual prompts too. So you can pull one of the cards. You can use this if you want to use your visual prompts, and then you just have a list of words, and you can just start crafting your story. And again, that's all this game really is a storytelling game. I feel it's more of a kind of a BS game where you're just telling a BS story. You're just making up stuff and just telling a story and having a good time with your friends. And I think that's what this is all about. But this book is over the top. I think this book is crazy, but I love it. I just think it's very, it's just fascinating. And again, it's these historical documents to look at, and just, kind of one of those things to have in my collection. So anyways, thank you for joining me as we take a look at Apollo 47, and have a great night.